Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, and welcome to Work Trends with Megan M. Biro. Whether you're here to network, learn, or share, we want you to have fun. During this live broadcast and Twitter chat, we'll discuss the future of work with smart and entertaining guests who value today's business and its impact on the world of work for the future. Stay tuned, because we start in 3, 2, 1.
Wow. You know, that's not getting old to me yet. It's kind of funny. I'm still digging that little intro ditty. Well, speaking of randomness, which is something I tend to specialize in for those who know me well, welcome to another informative Talent Culture Work Trends live podcast and Twitter chat. I want to thank our sponsors and our friends and our community out there for listening in today. We hope you are. You have a chance to join us on the Twitters by using Work Trends as our hashtag. And today I'm really excited. I have a friend and colleague with me today, author and keynote speaker Ben Fanning. And he's joined us today to discuss alternatives to quitting, which I think is a pretty cool topic. I think, it's something, as an entrepreneur, I even think of quitting some days. I've got to be honest with you all, but then again, I own my own destiny and my own business, right? So I don't have that. I'm not quitting. I don't have that opportunity, right? And I don't want to. But I think that honestly, there's a lot of people out there who are, you're thinking about it. It's on your mind. We're only human, right? So Ben is going to talk today about how to turn your current job into one that, you like, or maybe even you love it. And maybe you can even keep those fancy schmancy 401ks and insurances along the way. So if you give yourself permission to love your work and you create a space for exploration and possibility, you just never know. And that's what we're going to kind of unfold today. We will dive into how to slightly modify your work to play more to your strengths. So instead of sitting around and navel-gazing, right, and fantasizing about finding your perfect job, we're going to discuss how to create it. Whether you're on the hiring, firing, or potentially quitting side of the equation, I think this conversation is likely to resonate with you. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Ben. So Ben is a pretty cool guy. You can learn more about him, by the way. Head over to benfanning.com. He's got his own fancy website. Go figure, huh? And he went from being burned out himself to a #1 best-selling author. And he discovered the one word that ignited his career. He experienced more motivation and had measurably more success in the job than he had ever had. And now Ben spends his time helping others transform the job they have into, he's saying a dream job. I think we'll uncover that through, presentations, trainings, and certainly if anyone has yet to check it out and wants to, he's got a bestseller he wrote called The Quit Alternative. And again, you can learn more about it at benfanning.com. Welcome, Ben.
Thanks, Megan. Glad to be here. Work Trend Nation. Hello.
Work Trend Nation. Love it.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, where are you now physically?
I am physically in Charleston, South Carolina. Sunny, 70 degrees, no humidity today, and sweet tea in hand.
Nice.
That's what we do down here.
You rock the sweet tea?
Of course.
I hope it's not McDonald's. I hope it's not
McDonald's.
It's the
other soft drink.
Yeah,
no, it's not
that's
McDonald's.
True.
This is my special home brew.
Oh, is it? Hey, what do you like for your tea in the home brew, by the way? What's your favorite flavor?
All right, one of the big secrets I think Work Trends needs to know about sweet tea, and I know that you're in the New England area, so we need to clarify the sweet tea thing here. What is not sweet tea is ordering a glass of unsweetened tea and putting your own sugar in it. That is a major disappointment.
Is it really?
Oh, no. Never do that. You have to while the tea is hot, the unsweetened tea, while it's still hot after you just made it, then you mix in the sugar. Because otherwise all the sugar
That's true. That's a good point.
So.
And what kind of sugar are you using? Are you using honey? Are you using, like, natural sugar, regular old sugar?
Well, the proper thing to do would probably be to use the natural, like, honey or something like that, but it's hard to beat Dixie sugar. So.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Now
or Domino
about,
or any of the basic kinds of sugar.
Okay. Well, no need to get fancy, right? Anyone has sweet tea available to them. See that?
That's right.
So what the heck? I mean, we know where you are physically. Well, where are you mentally?
Yeah. Well, I'm Chief Burnout Officer, and
are you?
I'm Chief Burnout Officer over at benfanning.com, and I'm Chief Burnout Officer because after years of unfulfilled career expectations, I burned my own self out, and then I spent through a lot of introspection. Oh yeah, and I think a lot of the listeners can probably relate to this because I look at burnout as a rite of passage. You know, it's something that most of us go through in some point of our career, and sometimes we kind of just naturally pull ourselves out of it, and then sometimes we kind of stay in it for a while, but it can become a cycle. Or, if you will, burnout can become a spiral. And, eventually what I found for myself, and this is the process that I help other people with, is help them reignite their careers through a lot of introspection and making small modifications in the job they have to make the job better and help it become much more aligned to their own strengths and passion and what they care about.
How long did you actually experience burnout? Like, how long were you in that vicious cycle? Because I know people who were in it for like a decade, and then I know others who were like, you know what? I was at a startup, boom, 13 months, and I was outie. And it's really kind of a personal experience, right?
Yeah, I think it's all over the place. I think one of the things to note is to learn to catch it early on. And for me, I didn't really catch it early on. I was getting frustrated with my job. I was coming home at night, venting and just laying out all the frustrations to my wife. And
bummer.
It began to take a toll on my body, really.
On the relationship
so
too, like your relationship and right.
Oh yeah, and I've got my wife's great, but you throw enough frustration in front of everybody, they start to get frustrated too. And so
we call that baggage, right? We call that bringing your
baggage. Yeah, exactly.
We call that bringing your emotional baggage home with you from your job, right? Well, tell us, Ben, what were you doing? Like, tell us just a little bit about your own personal career path for those who don't yet know of you.
Yeah, well, I spent, I grew up with big dreams of the corner office and went the traditional business school path, got my MBA, and wanted to become a jet-setting CEO. That was really the goal I had in mind. And once I had the corner office, 4 cities, 4 companies later, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And I went through a series of just, bosses that were really frustrating, and the job was frustrating. And then one night it all came to a head. My wife was out of town, and I woke up in the middle of the night with the weight of a bowling ball on my chest. And I really felt like I was having a heart attack, and I was just in my 30s. And fortunately, I took action and went to the hospital. And when I got there, the doctor looked at me, and he's like, "Relax, Mr. Fanning. You're not having a panic attack. You're not having a heart attack. You are having a panic attack." And then his advice was like to, learn to talk to someone, learn to laugh, relax.
Yeah.
And I didn't know whether to hit the guy or laugh or cry or what, but I got up and left that day really not sure of what the next step was going to be. And
how long ago was that?
That was, 7 years ago.
Okay.
So it's been a while, and it's been a process from that point. And I had a realization from that though, a little later. when my wife, after hearing me vent to her all the time, she proactively made an appointment. I woke up one morning and I looked at my bag. It was a Post-it note with the name of a therapist on there. And
nice.
And I'll tell
nice
you,
move.
Well, yeah, good move by her. But at the time, I felt like my world was crashing because, like, a male from a Southern male going to see a therapist is like the equivalent of getting stung by 1,000 bees. That's how much fun it is.
Yeah.
But interestingly, like, we were in Manhattan, and I would trudge up uptown from 86th Street once a week, and I would go in to see this therapist, and he would just listen to me rant and rave, and I would walk out of there feeling a little bit better. But once I walked into work, I actually sort of got sucked back into the frustration.
Right.
And then one day, after this happening, did the same thing. I went in to see him, and he stopped me mid-sentence, and he said, "Mr. Fanning, do you know what your problem is?" And my jaw dropped, and I thought, and I actually said to the guy, I said, I'm thinking to myself, is this guy going to finally earn what I'm paying him?
Yeah.
And I listened, and he said, "You're burned out, you hate your job, and there's no pill for it. You need to go do something about it." And then I said to the guy, I said, "Are you firing me?" And he said, "Yes." And I left that day and never walked back. I never went back to see the guy. But I don't recommend this as a recommended therapy treatment or anything like that. But I'll tell you this, that I walked around Manhattan all that afternoon, and I had a big realization that no matter where I was in my career, over the previous 4 cities and 4 jobs, all the bad bosses, all the jobs I'd had that had frustrated me, there was one common element, Megan. And you can guess what that was. And I'm sure the Twitter world was going to light up with this.
Yeah.
The common element was me. I had been blaming a job. I've been blaming all the jobs, blaming everyone else. But ultimately, the job wasn't the issue. It was me. And I started also journaling that day. And I wrote down advice to what I would have told myself back in college. And this is the one word that really ignited my career, is that looking back over that period, I'd been on the search to find my dream job. And in fact, it started in college because when I was graduating, everybody else was on a hunt to find a job. Got to get that job. Got to find a job when I come out of college. But almost no one was talking about creating the job. That's the difference. That's the magic word.
Yeah,
creating
it is. And that's
the
not
job.
something probably at the time when you were in business school they were even really talking about. That's the silly part of this, right? I mean, nobody prepares you in this way from a career perspective or a business perspective. It's all about
go find a job.
Just go grab it, So, let me ask you this. For our audience today, what are 3 questions every single one of us must answer before quitting our job? What are those 3 questions?
Right. So if you're thinking about quitting your job, there are 3 questions that are really important to ask, and these really get skirted over so frequently, and so you can sort of move into this creation mindset, creating the job you love. But if you still are considering quitting, number 1, ask yourself, what's your real cost of quitting, right? And so just to put this in perspective, the average cost of a new car is just around $31,000 per year, according to USA Today. The cost of having a wedding, if you can believe it or not, is actually just about the same cost. But when you add up the average cost of quitting, or the cost of quitting for the average employee, it's over $36,000 a year. And the variables that people sort of forget to think through is the time it takes to look for a new job. That's one of the big factors. And there are several publications out there, including Kronos did a study where they say to allow 1 month of search time for every $10,000 you would like to have in your annual salary. So if you're going to earn over 6 figures, you're at least looking at a year. So that time really adds up. And when you also move from job to job, oftentimes you lose the accumulated vacation time, your seniority, vesting in options. There are delays in promotion and raises at your new job because oftentimes you don't qualify when you immediately go. And don't forget the transition stress from a new office, the new routine, the commute, and having to prove yourself over and over in that new environment. And so this doesn't mean that you should never consider quitting, but when you do start to consider quitting, it's important to consider and take care like you would with making a big financial investment, like buying a car. And so the number 2 thing is, so after you've considered what your real cost of quitting is, number 2 is to think about what the return on an investment is of doubling your effort where you are. Again, it's what's the return on investment or the ROI of doubling your effort where you are. And so if you took your current job with all of its imperfections and then you turned it into an opportunity to bring out your personal best, okay? So it's like investing in your current job and seeing if that can deliver a better return. And so areas to consider for that when you start thinking about doubling your effort in the job you have versus channeling that outside for finding another job is to consider what promotion opportunities might be where you are that can help you make an even bigger impact. Entering the conversation around adding more value, which can equal a raise, or doing more of the soul-filling work with the activities you enjoy, or just reinventing your role at work. And that was one of the things.
I love the fact that, you're not just saying, hey, everybody, just bail or go see a therapist. You're going, let's be thoughtful about it. Let's, number one, recognize that there's a disconnect between how you feel as a person at a job, right? And then there's specific action steps that you can certainly take. Well, you've been pretty thorough. Those are a lot of great questions that I think people can ask. Any other dangling questions before we move on?
Yeah, there's one more question I think that people should consider, and that's, what does your ideal job or your dream job actually look like? Because if you don't know what it looks like, then ultimately you're destined to never have it, because it takes a real proactive approach to the job and asking, having conversations. And a lot of people just don't consider for a moment, they're sort of waiting around for that recruiter to call or some opportunity to present itself, and they go in trying to fit themselves to that job versus imposing their will on the job. Yeah.
That's it. I hope everyone's listening to that. It's so important to not become passive in this process. As somebody who was formerly a recruiter earlier in my career, I was the person on the other side of that phone or desk or coffee shop going, hey, come work for us. This is our culture. But, you're right. The job seeker actually is not in a position if you're hanging back waiting for somebody to call. You're not in a proactive position. So it's a really key point. So let me ask you this, actually, because we're all human, right? Why is the grass always green around the top of the septic tank?
Yeah, great. I love that quote. And one of the best times that statement came up, I was watching the 2009 national BCS football game with the University of Alabama versus Texas, and Coach Nick Saban had come on and was getting, and at the time he kind of had a bad reputation for being a job hopper. And then his assistant coaches were leaving, and they asked him about his assistant coaches leaving him. And he said, he says, my dad always used to tell me that the grass is always greener on top of the septic tank. And I've never forgotten that.
Yeah.
And how it applies to your job is, when you're getting really frustrated in your job, which can happen any day or even every day, it's really easy to overlook the opportunities that are at your feet and the resources that you have, and start focusing on the other side where the grass is greener. But just like with the septic tank, if you've had a septic tank, that's where the grass is always greener, right? Because down below, it may be the same problems you're facing at work, or it could be even worse. And I got news to tell for people, for everybody. And if you've had a lot of different jobs, you probably recognize it, that annoying coworker that's sticking with you at work today, they're going to be waiting for you next job. And
yeah, they'll be there.
If you change jobs today because the boss is different, and you don't like your boss, there'll eventually be a reorg probably, and you'll have a different boss. So the real skill in this is to start to develop the skills to deal with unreasonable bosses, challenging coworkers, and begin to carve out your own job that you really enjoy within the organization you have. And then one day, if you do jump ship and go to a different place or thing, or even start your own business, you've already honed these skills and you're well prepared for that.
So what's one question that can help us motivate ourselves?
Okay.
What's like one zinger for us?
Yep, great question. So it is simply to understand why you work in the first place. And this is something I really like Simon Sinek's take on this. So everybody knows, what work they do. They know how they do their work or how they do their job, but almost no one, or they spend more time doing laundry than they do thinking about why they work in the first place. And so what's the deeper reason that you're working beyond the paycheck, beyond the 401k, right, beyond that steady paycheck? Is it something really personal, like you're working for your coworkers, or you're working to make a bigger impact, or you're working to develop your own skills in the world, or your family? I mean, there are a lot of ways to think about that, but I think that's a key, is to, instead of focusing your motivation for work on external factors, to begin to identify what your internal factors are and create a reminder around that. So when times get tough, you've got something to go on.
Would you say that your experience being in therapy helped you come to that place?
To which place? To
the place where
motivation.
you've been looking more. Yeah, because, obviously you started off on your career looking for external sources of, inspiration for, I have to do it this way. And then somehow, Ben Fanning got internal and got more with himself.
Yes. Yeah, and it's your question, is therapy helpful in that? And I would say absolutely. But it's not limited to therapy. And I think that's really important for people to recognize, is that ultimately, if you've got a friend that's asking you the deeper questions, or you sit there with a book and you're thinking about, how does this apply to me and how can I get better? If you're willing, it really takes, I think, introspection and self-awareness. And if you're willing to go there at any point in life, whether it's a therapist or a coach or just, something on your own, I think that can unlock a lot of potential.
So what's the best thing an employer can do, right? Because I'm looking at it from both sides right now, both from being an employee and also from a brand and employer perspective. What can employers do right now to help employees recreate a job that's a win-win, that's maybe more of a collaborative process?
I love that, because it doesn't have to be just the employee fighting for their own job. It can be the organization's really enabling.
Why is it just always the employee? It's it takes two and many other factors to create a career.
It takes two to tango, right?
It sure does. And to make sweet tea. Also, don't forget that.
A couple things on that. And I've led teams. You've led teams. A lot of people on the phone may be managing teams. And so the employer or the team leader, I think, can really help their teams and retain their top talent by encouraging the employees on the team to continually redefine their jobs, okay? So charge them to dream bigger than their current role, and then give them permission to think outside their job description. And I like to think of it and tell them, hey, your job description is the starting point for what you do in your day, not the end point, right? There's going to be some core activities that the team does to add value, but empower them to think a little bit bigger. And then another thing they can do is challenge them to write a work wish list. Again, that's a work wish list. And
what do you mean by that? I want you to be more specific, because that seems kind of vague.
What? The work wish list seems vague. Okay. So it's to ask them to make a list of the work that doesn't feel like work. So in other words, what's the work that they wish they had more of, or work they don't have at all today? And I'll kind of talk about this some more. So for me, I started out as an industrial engineer in my career, and let's just say that was not my thing. I was spending my day doing lots of Excel spreadsheets and lots of time. I mean, it was really rough. And what made matters worse was the people I worked with loved it. They loved being engineers. Okay, so it's very different than what I'm doing today. And
like
so
totally different?
Totally
like
different.
Totally different.
Totally different. And what I found in that was totally different. Pound or hashtag. Totally different.
Love it. And this is, by the way, your improv coming into play. Do you know that?
That's right. Shut up.
We're doing a little improv exercise as we go here. Just saying.
Yeah. So just to sort of elaborate on that, even though I didn't really enjoy the engineering work, what I found was I really enjoyed doing presentations and teaching other people. And I didn't really see the connection. But it was interesting, sort of a side story. We were training a team, and we were outsourcing some of our work to a team in another country in a lower cost region. And people were terrified that we're going to lose our jobs, or it's just not good for our team. And my boss tried 2 other engineers to get up at 7 a.m. in the morning to actually teach them to do our work. And I was the third rung down the ladder after that didn't work out with them, and he asked me to do it. And I was terrified, not excited about it. But when I got on that call that day, Megan, 7 a.m., to teach them to do the work, basically outsource our work, I loved it. And the tweak was, and my work wish list there was to do more teaching and training. And I found that it wasn't the engineering work I enjoyed, but teaching other people to do that work and walking them through the steps ended up being really enjoyable for me. And I think as an employer, you can help your employees discover what that work is and then find useful and creative ways to use it. My boss gave me a shot at doing that kind of work and ended up being a great fit. And that project continued beyond that and actually helped our team a great deal. And so one more thing, too, I'll offer on this, in terms of what the employer can do, is encourage the your employees, to seek out great collaborators and to become great collaborators. So within your workday, what are the different interests and skill sets of people that work on the team, and what's the work they enjoy doing? And when they're up against a big challenge, ask them to work together. And so in the previous example, if I'm tackling a big engineering project, doing all that deep analysis really is not my bag. It's not what I enjoy doing. But I can work with another engineer in that situation, and they can do the analytical heavy lifting, but it turns out they don't like doing presentations. So I'm happy to share the work in a public way, and that plays more to my skill set. Thus, great collaborators.
This has all been really, really helpful. And Ben, we're down to our final seconds here of the show. Can you believe it? It just totally flew by.
Man. Flew by.
I think, it's fun getting to know you even better and looking for more laughs and improv with you sometime soon. Maybe I'll head down to South Carolina and we'll meet up with some of our mutual friends down there and have some fun with it. But thanks again to anybody who'd like to know more information. Check out benfanning.com. I want to thank, again, our supporters and our community and our sponsors for being here with us today. We're going to continue this conversation over on Twitter using Work Trends as the tag. So look forward to it. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Megan. It was fun. I'll talk to you on Twitter.
Thanks. See ya.
All right, bye-bye.